of home.
Good morning, this is Reverend Kate Wilkinson from the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House of Provincetown, and I am so glad that you are joining us for our virtual worship service this morning. Even though we can't see each other, it is lovely to know that you are out there and that we are connected to each other. One of the things that feels especially connecting is when we all light a candle together on Sunday mornings. So I'm going to light my little chalice here now in my home, and I invite you to light a candle wherever you are. And even though you don't get to see them each week, I wanted to remind you that our amazing meeting house staff is still hard at work making these worship services happen and keeping our community going and our building cared for. So I've invited our meeting house staff to light a candle along with us this morning.
It's Mary, and I'm lighting my candle from North Truro, Massachusetts.
Hello, this is April in Provincetown, and I am lighting this candle. Peace.
Hey, this is Duka lighting candle in Truro.
This is Brenda in Truro, lighting a candle.
Please join me now in affirming our covenant. Love is the spirit of this meeting house. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Spirit of life, come to me, sing in my heart, all stirrings of compassion, blow in the winds, rise in the sea, move in the shape of justice, roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading this morning is by Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen from her book Kitchen Table Wisdom in a chapter called Sanctuary. My cat Charles, who is 18 years old, has many hiding places. When he is in one of these, a subtle change comes over him. No longer is he vigilant and wary, assessing the environment for its potential threat. In his hiding places, he seems at peace and unafraid. These places are many and varied. Some are classic feline sanctuaries, under the bed, behind the drapes, or in the closet. Others are unique to the house we share, the nook under the stairs, or the place behind the television. But one of them is in plain sight, a spot on the living room rug. When Charles is in this spot, he draws about himself the usual inviolateness of all his other hiding spaces. No matter if the delivery man, the neighborhood kid, or even the vet comes, in full view, he is calm and relaxed. He is himself. He seems so safe there that watching him, you would think that he is alone. In a book about Spain, I remember reading an interesting thing about bullfighting. There is a place in the bull ring where the bull feels safe. If he can reach this place, he stops running and can gather his full strength. He is no longer afraid. From the point of view of his opponent, he becomes dangerous. This place in the ring is different for every bull. It is the job of the matador to be aware of this, to know where sanctuary lies for each and every bull, to be sure that the bull does not occupy his place of wholeness. In bullfighting, the safe place is called the querencia. For humans, the querencia is a place in our inner world. Often it is a familiar place that has not been noticed until a time of crisis. Sometimes it is a viewpoint, a position from which to conduct a life, different for each person. In working with people with cancer, I have seen the change which happens when a person finds their querencia. In full view of the matador, they are calm and peaceful, wise. They have gathered their strength around them. The inner silence is more secure than any hiding place. Perhaps this is why the silence of the giant redwood forest near my home draws me. Many mornings I get up early and dress hurriedly to get to the woods before the tour buses and the cars arriving with people from all over the world come to marvel at the majesty of nature. At 8 in the morning, the great trees stand rooted in a silence so absolute that one's inmost self comes to rest. An aged silence, the grandmother of silences. I find the silence even more remarkable than the trees. As I age, I am grateful to find that a silence has begun to gather in me, coexisting with my tempers and my fears, unchanged by my joys or my pain. Sanctuary, connected to the silence everywhere. When we first started staying at home many weeks ago, feels like forever, doesn't it? Lisa and I set up this makeshift pulpit and altar in our basement. We added in a few plants, we decorated it for Easter, we put up a home-drawn picture of the Earth for Earth Day last week. It's working out pretty well down here. And it's fun to talk to my colleagues about where they are setting up their makeshift preaching spaces. Some are in their living rooms or even a corner of their bedroom. Those with kids are in whatever room has a door that locks so that they are not interrupted mid-sermon with requests for more juice. My colleague down the road in Falmouth, Reverend David Kohlmeyer, shared that his pulpit is now his kitchen table, and that leading worship from there has actually reminded him of the blurred lines between the sacred and the ordinary. Now, you can't see it, but just beyond the frame of this camera is actually an exercise bike that I borrowed from my gym when it closed for the pandemic, and that is where I do my Zoom spin classes in the morning. There are kettlebells and weights in a little pile on the floor over there, and there's a trash can in the corner. Just beyond the bike is our washer and dryer. That reminds me, I have to switch a load of laundry into the dryer after this. It's humbling, frankly, preaching in a basement. You know, I didn't think I would like it, but I'm beginning to love how the lines between the different parts of my life are being blurred these days. How laundry can melt into self-care, can melt into my message of love to all of you from this most ordinary of spaces. When you strip away all the trappings of worship, when it's just each of us in our homes with a small candle and the memories of being together, all that's left is a humility and vulnerability and gratitude that I think might, in the end, leave us more open to spirit. If you take away the computer screen, this new way of worshiping is actually a lot closer to the setup of the earliest faith communities than anything we have come up with in the last 2,000 years. In her book, An Altar in the World, Barbara Brown Taylor speaks of how hard we each struggle to find spiritual wisdom, of the work we do to encounter the divine. We try to orchestrate and plan and create with our own hands moments of spiritual awakening. We try to flip the switch to holy mode, and it rarely works. Or, Barbara says, I can set a little altar in the world or in my heart. I can stop what I am doing long enough to see where I am, who I am there with, and how awesome the place is. I can see it for once instead of walking right past it, maybe even setting a stone or saying a blessing before I move on to whatever and wherever I am due next. She says, human beings may separate things into as many piles as we wish, separating spirit from flesh, sacred from secular, church from world. But we should not be surprised, she says, when God does not recognize the distinctions we make between the two. Earth is so thick with divine possibility that it is a wonder we can walk anywhere without cracking our shins on altars. If there is a gift to come out of all of this, I hope it is the black and blue shins we have from stumbling upon the sacred spaces of our everyday lives now that we are spending way more time in them. Now that we aren't going to church in order to feel we've had a sufficiently holy experience. Instead, little altars everywhere. The light of a candle, the faces of our family, the poignancy of our loneliness, the miracles of the arrival of spring, the fleeting realization that we are enough, just as we are, in all our imperfection, that there is nothing holier than these things. In Wendell Berry's poem, How to Be a Poet, there is a line that says, "There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places." I hope that you are finding the sacred places in your life these days, whether it's in your basement or your kitchen table, in music, or in the sanctuary of silence. Or maybe you can create a little altar of your own with objects that remind you that you are connected beyond yourself, even during this time, to the earth, to spirit, and to the ones you love. I really do have little altars everywhere. Here I am in my office at the UU, and you'll notice that I use my mantelpiece as an altar. I've got different sacred objects and things that people have given me that are special. Here I have a prayer box, and I often invite people to put their prayer into the box so that it can hold it for them. But you don't need a mantelpiece or an incredible amount of space to have an altar. You'll notice that in front of each of my rows of books on my bookshelf, each little space is an altar in itself. I've got my angels and artwork and little things from nature tucked into every little corner, and the windows in our house at home are the same way, each one a little altar. So I hope that you can find a corner of your house to make an altar too. I believe that objects become sacred with our attention. Altar building is a chance to pay attention to everyday objects and to see them as holy. Stones, shells, feathers, candles, statues. There's no right or wrong way to build an altar. In Rebecca Wells's novel, Little Altars Everywhere, she writes about a dream of swinging as high as she can on a swing set. "We are swinging high," she says, "flying way up, higher than in real life. And when I look down, I see all the ordinary stuff. Our brick house, the porch, the tool shed, the back windows, the oil drum barbecue pit, the clothesline, the chinaberry tree. But they are all lit up from inside so that their everyday selves have holy sparks in them. And if people could only see those sparks, they'd go and kneel in front of them and pray and just feel good. Somehow the whole world looks like little altars everywhere. And every time Edith and me fly up into the air and then dive down to earth, it's like we're bowing our heads at those altars, and we are praying and playing all at the same time. I hope that this time of slowing down allows you to open your eyes to see little altars everywhere, and maybe even build one of your own. And you know what? I've been noticing altars out there in the world. Little offerings of hope by the roadside. Homemade signs thanking first responders. Hearts painted on wooden pallets. Rainbows drawn on rocks. Thank yous in the window of the supermarket. Maybe their creators didn't think of these offerings as altars, but I do. And I get a tingly feeling when I drive by them, and a smile on my face when I discover them. And I feel, even if just for a moment, connected and hopeful, not alone. I feel grateful. So thank you for the little altars everywhere. And until we can be together again in our sanctuary, I hope that you are creating and finding small pockets of sanctuary wherever you are. And I assure you, they are just as holy. Amen, and blessed be.
Hi everybody, nice to join you today. This is a song called Prayer 2000 by Eliza Gilkison. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the full moon. Thank you for my true love's face, and our lives in love consumed. Thank you for the stars, a home along the river. Thank you for the ancient groves and the fishes brown and silver. Ponies running wild, grass enough for grazing, water flowing clean and pure, and all the beauty that saves me. Thank you for the dawn. Oceans rise and falling, children born to carry on, and the end that's always calling. Thank you for the songs. Thanks for all my good luck and all the things that don't go wrong, and the hopes that don't give up. Thank you for my tears, loved ones who forgave me. Thank you for my darkest years and all the sorrow that made me. water flowing clean and pure, and all the beauty that saves me, and the sorrow that